Hi guys, this is another quick analysis video. As you can see, I've marked up a few things on the video itself, and I just want to go through a couple of them. The first thing I want to point out is the Fs could associate with February, or they could associate with Fool in terms of April Fools, referencing April. When you flip the Fs around, you get 7 and 7, and if this is referencing Valentine's Day, as you've got the hearts on the chalkboard over here, and you've got the heart down here as well, then it could be February the 14th, which obviously 7 and 7 does equal. It doesn't just have two 7s here. If you flip the Fs around, you've also got, in terms of this hangman here, JK pointed out a long time ago that there's like a faint line separating the kind of words here. And what happens is if you take that line and follow it down, you get a 7, and then the L itself also becomes an upside down 7, so that could be a reference to 14 again, 7 and 7. And the line actually extends up here, but with this connection from the L and this connection from the actual line below the L, you can actually make a backwards F as well, which I've just highlighted by placing the yellow mark there as well, to show that it could be referencing February in terms of a backwards F, and it could be representing 14 in terms of a 7 upside down and a 7 the right way around, as well as the double 7s down here. Not only that, but it appears there's an F in the actual hangman itself. So there's a line that goes across for his mouth, and then the body and the arm seem to make an F as well. And then I was thinking, okay, so if this is talking about February the 14th, Valentine's Day, as a possible marker or something happening on that day, then kind of what is it actually talking about? Moving on to the next scene, just highlight here, if these blue figures are months and this is the second month, which is February, then we also appear to have an F which is in the leaves and the stem, well, not really the stem, but the leaves here. They seem to make up an F, and then it points towards the second figure, which is commonly believed to be February. In February, there appears to be some sort of wave or something moving towards February. So, not sure if that's referencing a tsunami or something tsunami-like coming in that month. And then the video that JK Bargout did the other day had where he kind of pointed out some 18s down here. I can see the 18s there, so I'm quite sure with that one on there. But even more certain is this shadow F that appears to be down here on the left hand side of the girl's dress. It could also look like an E, but if you notice, the line for the F actually comes all the way down here, and then this part of the shadow is just the shadow that makes up the details of her dress. So the F is actually separate, comes all the way down here and comes up like that. So that could be another reference to February, or it could be another reference to Fall in terms of April Fools. So you got kind of like 2 months there that appear to be highlighted. So when I was thinking about the possible events that could be happening in February, nuclear war, tsunami, stock market completely crashes, some sort of EMP blackout, military movements, or possible Donald Trump assassination, which has been, talked about quite a lot. I then started obviously looking at the image that I did a long time ago, where some of the images on the chalkboard are revealed, and I talked about this man back here appearing to be holding a gun behind what we believe is a representation of Donald Trump, as well as a representation of George Bush. And if that is the theory, then the gun appears to be, if we can sort of mess around with the depth a little bit, it appears to be held towards the right side at the back of his head, or aimed at the right side at the back of his head. So when I was thinking about that, I started looking at these images that we've got here. So the image that Timmy Foiler that I saw on his channel with the Donald Trump outline looking like, so I've just put a real silhouetted picture of Donald Trump here, and you can see the hairline, the same as his hairline here. His nose coming out, the same as his nose coming out here. His upper lip here, his upper lip over here, bottom lip there, leading into the chin, again, leading into the chin. So I think that is a representation of Donald Trump that they've got on the cracked head of this child. That could also be a reference to Easter, again, in terms of April Fool, because they're on the same day this year. So, you know, that could also reference April at the same time. So, you know, as this video has multiple layers, you're just kind of looking at all the layers and trying to pinpoint it down. But I feel confident we're in the timeline. The other thing is, when I was watching JK's video the other day, and he was talking about this scene here, he said there's a face there, and I can see it, so I just kind of drew it out. Appears to be lying facing upwards. This would be his nose, as you can see here. His chin area down by the neck, which has kind of like, you know, like when you're getting a bit older, the skin gets a bit loose. You can see it kind of there. The eye is closed, and what appears to have happened is there appears to be a head wound here on the right side of his head, which obviously has reference to the point in the video where it appears there's a gun aimed at the back of his head to the right. And I was just thinking, it's a possibility I've mentioned before, obviously, because, you know, presidents have been assassinated before. Whether this happens or not, I can't say. I don't wish it to happen, but this is what the video appears to be depicting in not so obvious ways, but kind of drawing it into like a mountaintop kind of building / submarine kind of thing, and melding it into like the boy's head. Did I close it here? Yeah, melding it into the boy's head. Alright, so it's not so obvious, but it's there. You can see the silhouette. So when I was kind of looking at this scene that was done by JK in terms of the 18 and the February, I was thinking, or the F, which could mean February or fall, I was thinking about the 18, and then I was kind of linked into the apple, because obviously I've mentioned a long time ago about the apple and how that could be related to Apple, the company. I don't know. I don't think it's referencing Apple, the company, in this video, but I think Apple is one of those companies that are part of, you know, this whole Illuminati, elite, Skull and Bones, Knights of the Golden Circle kind of secret society system. So when I was looking at Apple, I went online and I was looking at Apple, and Apple released 2 phones last year. They don't usually release a second generation phone at the same time as they release a first generation phone. So they would usually do an iPhone 8 this year, then like an iPhone 8s or something the next year, and then after that they do the iPhone 9 and so on and so forth. Last year they just went with the iPhone 8, and then a couple of months later they released the iPhone X. So they completely skipped out the iPhone 9 and went for iPhone 8 and iPhone 10 basically. And those two numbers, you put them together, you got 18. And if that is any connection to the iPad Go video with the 18s that have been revealed, then that is more significant. Not only that, but they released the iPhone 8 in September, which is the 9th month, and they released the iPhone X in November, which is the 11th month. If these are subliminal messages, then we've got a reference to 9/11 just there, and then another reference to 18 in terms of iPhone 8 and iPhone X. So I was looking at the other numbers that are involved. The iPhone 8 was released on the 22nd, and the iPhone X was released on the 3rd. So those two numbers, when I put that in Google, 223, they just came up with Remington, and it refers to a bullet, basically, a rifle cartridge. So going on from that, I typed in Remington rifle just to see what it was, or what it looked like. And it's basically a sniper rifle. And it just kind of all clicked together for me. I don't know if it's significant, but because of the images that appear to show what looks like maybe Donald Trump with a head wound in terms of maybe being shot in the back of the head, then it could be possible that it's a sniper rifle, and who knows, it could be a 223 Remington cartridge that's used to do the deed. Not only that, but when you flip the number around, 223 has association with Masonic, Illuminati kind of people. When you flip it around, it's 322, which has reference to Skull and Bones, a society which George W. Bush was a part of, or is a part of. And obviously we got George W. Bush in the iPad Goat video, so I don't know if that means there's going to be some sort of plot from one of these secret societies, either the Masons or the Skull and Crossbones, in terms of Donald Trump assassination. I just wanted to point it out because that seems to be what I'm discovering. Also in reference to the Lunar Third, as we see in the classroom with the LC, that could be saying Lunar Third with the LC. So I've already said before that the 15 that they've got down here is kind of coming off of the C's attached to it. So that could be a way of saying to connect the two numbers. So 15 and 3, which would be 18, and then Lunar Third, which I found on the lunar calendar corresponds to only 2 days in this year. So one of those days is one day I've already talked about, which is February the 18th. It's the third lunar day in the first lunar month, and that could be a possible connection to the LC in terms of Lunar Third, and then the 15 attached to the C, which is 18, being February the 18th. But it also corresponds to another day, which is April the 18th, which is the third lunar day in the third lunar month. So, as I said, both months seem to have significance in terms of the F being everywhere, and the connections to February that I've mentioned in terms of Valentine's Day and the rest of it. And there's a connection to April as well in terms of Easter and April Fools. So that's basically what I wanted to bring to your attention today. I hope it was kind of easy to follow. It was a little bit disjointed here and there, but I hope you get the general gist of what I'm saying. So the iPhone part is kind of speculative, but, you know, considering it was like one day I see the video from JK about the 18s, and then the connection to the iPhones just kind of popped up in terms of why did they skip out the iPhone 9 and just go to the iPhone X. And then the September and November being 9/11, the 223 kind of linking up to a rifle, and backwards linking up to the Skull and Crossbones. It all just seemed a bit suspicious, so I thought I'll best mention it. And obviously the references to February are quite clear, but then the references to April are also quite clear. So there's 2 months of watch, and obviously in between that is March. So the next 3 months are going to be interesting to watch. That's it from me, guys. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.